In 1692, a quiet town sparked into hysteria. The Puritans of Salem had derived their beliefs of witchcraft from Europe, where many witch hunts occurred across France, Italy, Germany, and England. The Puritans of New England colonies had a very strict religion and believed the devil was constantly present. Witchcraft was a capital crime punishable by death. In Exodus chapter 22, verse 18, it states, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." This is the statement that set the drive for the trials. Betty Parris, the 9-year-old daughter of Salem's Reverend Parris, became strangely ill in January of 1692. Shortly after, her cousin Abigail Williams became ill with similar symptoms, such as screaming, seizures, and trances. In mid-February, Dr. William Griggs diagnosed the girls as being bewitched. The town desperately wanted to seek out the witch tormenting the girls. After much questioning, the girls finally gave 3 names: their Barbados family slave Tituba, the town beggar Sarah Good, and an old depressed woman, Sarah Osborne. Warrants for their arrest were immediately issued, and they were taken into custody for questioning. Both Sarah Osborne and Sarah Good pleaded their innocency, but they were determined guilty and jailed. Then surprisingly, Tituba confessed, claiming she was forced to torment the girls and that she wrote in the devil's book. She also claimed to have seen Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne's names in the devil's book, as well as 6 other names she was unable to read. Puritans believed when someone signed the devil's book, it meant they had a pact with him and were doing his work. She also confessed to tales of rides on broomsticks, talking animals, and spectral visits. Tituba was jailed. Most of the people who confessed did so to avoid being hanged, and all of the confessions just added to the hysteria.
At first, it had seemed like any other trial that would resolve itself quickly. However, this was not the case. When the girls did not recover and became more afflicted, it was assumed more witches were in Salem, so the hysteria worsened. Everyone was a suspect. On March 11th, the afflicted girls named Martha Corey and Rebecca Nurse as witches. The town was in shock. If such seemingly good Puritans were witches, anyone could be. They had a very organized system that was followed when a witch was accused. They would first have an arrest warrant issued and the witches would be taken into custody. The judges order a physical search for the witches' teats. This was a particular growth believed to be where the devil had fed off the witch. They would also search the homes for dolls that were believed to be used by the witches to inflict pain in others by prodding needles into the dolls. Judges also accepted testimony from those who claimed to have confrontations with the accused and have misfortune after. Spectral evidence, however, was the key to trials. Some believed witches could send specters to cause harm. Only the victim could see the specters, so later this kind of evidence was called flawed.
Rebecca Nurse was a 71-year-old Salem Village church member, one of the last people one would believe to be a witch. She was arrested in March 1692 when the now 11 afflicted girls claimed that her specter had tormented them. Rebecca Nurse claimed she was innocent, saying, "I can say before my eternal Father, I am innocent, and God will clear my innocency." The day of Rebecca Nurse's trial, 40 people signed a petition claiming Nurse was innocent. The courtroom did not agree, and she was jailed until further notice. Martha Corey also pleaded innocent in court and said, "We must not believe all that these distracted children say." She had brought to the town's attention that the group of afflicted girls were making all the accusations and were the reason for all of the so-called witches that were being jailed. Martha's husband, Giles Corey, called the afflicted girls out and questioned the validity of their accusations. Then the girls claimed him to be a wizard, and he was pressed to death while being questioned for information. Being pressed to death was a form of torture among many used to make witches confess in the 1600s. The idea of torture originated in Europe, Middle Ages, and was very popular. One example was a procedure referred to as swimming a witch. They would tie the accused to a chair and dunk them under the water. If they sank, they were innocent, but if they floated, they were guilty.
The girls had been using spectral evidence for every witch they had accused, and it became unreliable. It was decided that spectral evidence was only allowed to raise suspicion, not conviction. Too many innocent lives had been taken, and it was stated by Minister Increase Mather, it were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than one innocent person condemned. Spectral evidence had grown out of control, and once it was ignored, the trial significantly slowed when it came to accusations. There was a total of 200 accused and 20 executed in the Salem witch trials, making it the largest witch hunt in American history. There were 19 hanged on Gallows Hill, Giles Corey was pressed to death, and 4 died in jail. This totaled 24 lives taken because of the witch trial hysteria of Salem. It was concluded that no method existed for routing out evil forces.
The horrific trials that took place in Salem in 1692 can be considered a turning point in history because they affected our view of witches today. Witchcraft started with a Celtic midwife who was a respected leader and guardian of stability in her community. In the Middle Ages, the witch stereotype changed to a woman with a green face, pointed nose, riding a broomstick, doing evil to others. Today, we do not live in fear of witches or blame them for misfortune. The trial got so out of hand that we consider most of the executed to have actually been innocent. We now look to witches as an image of Halloween and imagination. The trials have placed Salem on the map and made them known throughout the country. Media uses the idea of witches in many aspects today. For example, Hocus Pocus, Harry Potter, and Paranorman are all very successful movies based on witchcraft for entertainment. The courtroom was most affected by the trials because they are faulted with the loss of lives. They realized they needed to improve and have a more stable basis when accusing people. They now believe everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Also in this country, we now separate church and state. The trials helped the Founding Fathers formulate the Constitution and the aspects of a free trial and the right to defend oneself. The economy has also made a thriving business on the basis of witches. Salem is a popular tourist destination because of the many museums and have been created about the trials of 1692. They provided many business opportunities such as restaurants, stores, and haunted tours. Society's view of witchcraft was strongly affected because today we view witchcraft as a myth. We think the actions that occurred in Salem during the trials were driven by fear and foolish decisions were made. Even Reverend John Hale of Beverly said, "Such was the darkness of the day. We walked in the clouds and could not see our way." The people of Salem do recognize their faults during the trials and regret many of the actions taken. Ann Putnam was the only accuser to apologize for her actions of accusing innocent. The year-long struggle of the witch hunt made New Englanders not participate in witch hunts ever again. Gary Allen, a sociology professor, claims that we make witches up because we distrust ourselves.
The trials have definitely been a turning point in history because they affected many aspects of life afterwards. Society will always remember the trials and be struck with the guilt of foolish mistakes that cost 24 lives. The trials of 1692 will always be remembered as a year of witch hysteria in Salem. We cannot change the past, but we have grown from it and accepted it as a turning point for our country's business,
Religion,
politics,
social ideas,
tradition,
media,
perspective,
and belief. This was created by Veronica Beretta and Ariana Gagliardi.